Hey, I'm Deanna. Welcome to my studio. In this video, I'm going to be putting the finishing touches on this dresser, a rub-on decor transfer on the front, and accenting some areas with white wax. So let's get started. Thanks for joining me for part 2 of this dresser makeover. If you missed part 1, I'll leave the link in the description box below so you can check that out if you're curious to see the steps that I took to get the dresser to this stage. Here's a quick look at what it looked like before I got started. In this video, I'm going to be applying a floral transfer to the front of the dresser and then finishing off by adding in some white wax into the creases and detailed areas just to add another layer of interest. I'll talk you through step by step as I'm going through the project so that you can follow along, and I'll also leave links to those products that I'm working with in the description below so that you can find those if you'd like to recreate this finish. Here's the decor transfer that I'm going to be applying. I contacted Iron Orchid Designs to see if they'd be interested in donating some products for me to use in my videos, and they were, so thank you so much to them for sending me this gorgeous floral transfer. Let's check it out. Here's a look at the entire transfer. Now the shape of the transfer is a little bit wider than my dresser, so rather than just laying it down as it is on the backing sheet, I'm going to cut apart the transfer so each one of the flowers and the words as its own element, and then I can place it however I like on the front of the dresser to better fit the shape of the furniture piece. The transfer comes with a white backing sheet, and this is to protect any dirt or oils from your fingers getting on the back of the transfer. So you do not want to touch this area here. Because the two of them are not stuck together, just be careful that you don't drop the backing sheet as you're working. And as I cut the pieces apart, I'm just going to use some painter's tape and tack the backing sheet to the front of the transfer. Using scissors, I'm just going to cut out each of these individual elements. You don't have to perfectly cut along the image. I'll just use a piece of painter's tape and attach the backing sheet onto the front of the transfer. I've got all of my pieces laid out over here. Using some painter's tape, I'm going to tack them into place onto the front of the dresser, and then once I have the design that I'm happy with, I'll remove the backing paper and start the transfer. Now that I've got my design mocked up, I'm ready to start to apply my transfers. One thing to point out is this grid pattern that you're seeing here. That's not actually part of the design. That's just on the transfer sheet to help you keep things level. Also the white, again, that is the backing paper. So when that is removed, all that will be left behind are the black of the letters or the colors in the flower, and the color of my dresser will be the background. I'll start here at the top and just work my way down, and I'll explain the process as I go. In the package with the transfer also came this little plastic stick, and this is what I'll use to rub the transfer onto the surface. I'll just start with this one right here. I'll remove the painter's tape that's holding it in place. And now I'll remove that white backing sheet, being careful not to touch the back side where the transfer is. I'm going to lay this into place where I want it to go. And then again, using that painter's tape, I'm going to tack it back into place. This transfer here is kind of in the way where it's overlapping, so I'm just going to move that out of the way for now. And I'll tack it into place in just a couple more spots. And then starting on the edge and working your way all in one direction, you just take the little stick and rub until the image transfers onto the surface. You don't have to push too hard, it transfers quite easily. I find that where the transfer meets the drawer and edge, sometimes it's easier to take an X-Acto knife and then just to make a little cut right along there. All of the bits of this transfer have been rubbed onto the surface, so now I'm going to remove the sheet and we can take a look. So again, the grid pattern is not part of the transfer, comes with the sheet. And you can take a look at your sheet. If any little bits are left behind, you could always rub those back onto the surface, but it looks like I got everything. So before I was mentioning using an X-Acto knife to cut the sheet where it might overlap a drawer. So you can see right here, the design is laying right over the crack. So I just need to either cut it before or right now before I open the drawer, just take my knife and just gently push the design into the crack. The first piece is all done, so I'm just going to keep going with the exact same process. Remove the backing sheet, tack into place with some painter's tape, start at one end and work my way down. If I get to a crease or an edge and I find that it's a little tricky, I can always use my knife and cut through the transfer, or I can wait until I pull the sheet away and just gently cut those edges. I'm just going to bring you in here for a closer look at the transfer process. I want to show you that you can see the difference of the areas that you have successfully transferred and areas that have not been transferred yet. So right here on this flower that I'm working on, up here, this area here is a little bit more foggy. The transfer has adhered to the surface. Right along here, you can kind of see a line, and then the colors become more vivid from here down. And so those areas have not been transferred yet. As I push with my transfer stick, you can see that color shifts. And so it is actually quite easy to see the areas that you have transferred and the areas that still need to be pressed down. The furniture transfer is on and done. Now I'm moving on to white wax. In video 1, you'll see that I've already applied a sealer to the entire dresser. So I'm not applying the wax as a sealer, but more as a decorative element. I'm going to apply it in the grooves and creases just to create another layer of interest. It's going to be very subtle, but just that nice finishing touch. Just start off by working a bit of the paste into my brush. And then I'm going to add it into the details here on this hardware. So with the brush, I'll just scrub that wax into some of the grooves and creases. And then I'll take the soft rag and just wipe away to remove it off the high points and to let it sit in all of those detailed parts. I'm all finished with wax, so I'm going to put this away. I've just got one more small thing to do. Where the transfers ended on the edges of the drawers, some of them made a hard edge, and so I'm just going to lightly sand to soften that, and then we'll take a look at the finished piece. This dresser makeover is now complete. I'm loving the addition of the floral transfer and the white wax, just those extra little touches that make it really special. On this particular piece, I'm not going to be adding another layer of top coat over the floral transfer, although you could. This piece is not a high use one, and so I wasn't worried about durability. If it was something like a tabletop or a coffee table, then I would absolutely put another layer over top to protect the transfer from getting scratched or scuffed up. Now, if you have any questions about the products I used today or the process I demonstrated, feel free to leave those questions in the comments below. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel and you're interested in learning more DIY techniques, consider subscribing by hitting that big red subscribe button down below, and remember to click the notification bell because that's how you'll be alerted every time I upload a new video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you back here next time.